Well, the first mountain leg test of the Tour is 167 kilometres, setting out from the well-used Tour city of Tarbes. There are 3 small climbs plus the day sprint en route to the big one, and because of the relatively long, relatively flat run-up, stage 10 is almost like a magnified moor, a scaled-up version of stage 3 or stage 8 with the sting in the final few kilometres. The kilometres aren't quite so few at the end though today. La Pierre Saint-Martin is new to the Tour, a super category climb, 15 kilometres long and 1,600 metres high. There are ramps on it of more than 1 in 10, but there are also sections of flat and even downhill where losses can be clawed back. There are harder mountains to come in this race, but this will serve very well as a first test.
Go. And don't forget, he has Alejandro Valverde, like a multiple Tour de France stage winner, as his like helper. I mean, imagine the situation. In any other team, Alejandro Valverde would be the total leader. And here, he's just a domestique for Quintana. So they're in a really good, strong position here. And I hope we're going to see some really good action soon.
This is the rider that was in the breakaway, Van Bilsen in the red. He's been caught. You know, just looking there, the 4th place rider in the white jersey, don't get caught out, by the way, because Nairo Quintana is in 2nd place in the best young rider competition, and he wears the white jersey. He will be thinking of doing some serious damage on this climb later on. Just looking here, and it was interesting to hear what Jens Voigt had to say, Phil. When you think about Movistar, how hard these guys are working, they have so much confidence in their climber, Nairo Quintana, but I wonder how Nairo Quintana must feel to have a guy with the reputation of Alejandro Valverde working for him, pacing him at this stage.
And who seems to have come to this race with a great pair of legs, having just won the Championship of Spain. Only 1 rider left. Moments ago, we did see Kenneth Van Bilsen passed by the peloton. And this is trouble here, Paul, because this is Romain Bardet, number 12, and he's slipping it back now with Peter Kenyuk just ahead. Kenyuk was riding very strongly at the front, but it looks as though somebody just knocked on the door.
Well, let's not forget Bardet had a little nasty crash in the early week of this race, and he's been put under pressure. It's always strange, Phil. I've always said this: when you come out of the starting blocks the day after the rest day, the body reacts sometimes in a very, very strange way.
Here is Andrew Talansky, also been dropped here, though his team got to the front early. I thought he might have been feeling good, but this is an incessant pace being forced out by Movistar. Dan Martin as well.
Well, that's a bit of a shock, because we noticed Cannondale Garmin came to the front. They were on the right-hand side. They were setting quite an infernal pace to stay at the front end of the main field. And for me, Phil, they're 2 big chances. Well, they've popped. Thibaut Pinot, 21, he's been left behind as well, and that's why FDJ were doing all of their pace-making before. Now, this is an indication of how tough today is.
This is Robert Hessing, who's trying to take advantage of the tactics here. Hessing is accelerating. Now, that might cause a reaction eventually from the field. Hessing overall is over 2:52 behind in 15th place. He's looking to improve now.
Well, he's got a chance, Phil, because of that loss of time, almost 3 minutes down in the overall standings. They don't need to respond to his attack immediately. We're now down to just a few riders left from Movistar. There in the white jersey, Nairo Quintana, his face does not show any expression at all. He is one of the greatest climbers in the world. Robert Hessing has taken the advantage of having lost some time to say, right, I'm going to fly the flag for Holland today. It might be red, white and blue, but it's not the flag that France was expecting to see fly in the Pyrenees.
Well, this is the thing, Paul, with Hessing. As I don't know if we missed, though, just saw him go past, but they caught poor old Federigo there. Hessing was first past him. He's gone straight through the group. But this is Robert Hessing here, and this is a sort of move that could be rather interesting, because they're not going to react yet to him.
Sorry, there was Federigo just going through the shot there very, very quickly, Phil. Goodbye, thank you, merci beaucoup, vive la France.
They're 12 seconds behind Robert Hessing at the moment. He was finished 5th overall in the Amgen Tour of California this year and stayed on.
Nibali's suffering. Nibali's going out
Nibali's cracked. Nibali has gone. This is the back of the race here. Last year's winner is in trouble. Now, if they start to hear this, remember that Chris Froome, when he came up the Mur de Bretagne, didn't realise they had Nibali in trouble, but he will now. So as Nibali cracks, so too does Thibaut Pinot.
Phil, my sleeper for the day, Rigoberto Urán, is also in difficulty on this slope to this very, very difficult climb.
Well, this relentless tempo by Team Movistar, with Sky just following. They haven't played any cards yet. waiting to see. Now this is interesting. Vincenzo Nibali here up against the best climbers. He's not coming out best.
Bauke Mollema as well in the black and white jersey of Trek Factory Racing. Some big names are slipping away from the yellow jersey group. Right now, I have to say, Phil, that Chris Froome looks to be in very, very good situation. He's still got Nicolas Roche up alongside him, but this man, this is a guy who's had so many ups and downs throughout the whole of his career. He had a nasty accident a couple of years ago where he broke his leg, had to fight back into the sport. His father passed away, and it was a very difficult moment for him to get himself back into the sport. But then at the start, well, last year he had that problem with his heart, and now he is at the front in the Tour de France.
21 seconds against 21 riders in this chase group here. There's still some surprising names, including the youngest rider in the race is still here at the moment for MTN, Quebecer. At 10 kilometers to go, it looks like Hessing has 23 seconds. Well, the sky's the limit right now. They've taken over the pacemaking at the front. They've reduced this group to about 15 riders. They are chasing Robert Gesing and Rafael Valls, two very strong riders, and won't cause concern today, but if they keep this up over the next 3 days, they will. The gap is 25 seconds.
Well, TJ Van Garderen there, number 61, will be quite happy, I think, Phil, to see that he's got number 66 in this group with him, and that's Sammy Sanchez, the Olympic champion from 2008. A little bit further forward, I noticed Tony Galopin as well in the red jersey there of Lotto. Pretty impressive. And I think number 82, Warren Barguil, is in that group. That is amazing after the crash that he had in the early part of today's stage. Oh, and now all of a sudden Robert Hessing is starting to accelerate at the front of the race, and he's put Valls into a spot of bother.
Well, that's put Valls very much on the defensive here, the 27-year-old. And he is a very good climber, but it just shows you the condition of Robert Hessing. He's prepared specifically for the Tour de France to show us he's back. He suffered from heart problems last year, but he quite clearly has got over them. As Lawrence Ten Dam is now unhitched from the main field, his teammate.
Well, he's a rider who gets himself into survival mode in the mountains, but we can count on him tomorrow or the next day as we look over here. This man who rode the Amgen Tour of California this year and then stayed in the United States to prepare at altitude for the Tour de France. Froome, you can never really tell how he is. He's got that very strange style. He puts his head down, he looks at his pedaling style, and you could never tell if he... Oh, well, Barguil is in difficulty. Not a surprise, Phil. I mean, I'm surprised he was still there when there was only 20 riders left, but it just goes to show that this is a kid we need to watch for the future, as I said earlier. 24 years of age.
This is not a good day for Vincenzo Nibali, who had an iron grip on the Tour de France this time last year.
Well, it just goes to show how quickly things can turn around. Nibali now, Phil, all he can do is stay up alongside his teammates. Now is Geraint Thomas on the front. Richie Porte
is here as well.
Valverde's making a move here, Phil.
Valverde, a strong man. He's won in this area before, and he's accelerating. Now that's going to put them all on the defensive. As I also see the Argentinian rider in there, Eduardo Sepulveda, and he's never ridden the Tour before, and he's in this select group.
Well, when we talked to his team at Bretagne Session Verimont before the start of the Tour de France, they had high hopes for this rider. He's in the black and green jersey, and he's hoping to get himself inside, first of all, the top 15, and maybe even the top 10. But the move by Alejandro Valverde, Phil, this puts a lot of pressure onto Team Sky, and that's the advantage that Movistar have.
Well, that was a brutal acceleration, but they're beginning to claw the way back. Rafael Valls is on the right. He's been passed back into this group. It's up to the incredible bike rider, Geraint Thomas, the Commonwealth Games road race champion, to repair the damage again. Van Garderen is number 61. 121 here is Pierre Roland, who seems to have found himself again here.
Well, you have to wonder about Geraint Thomas, Phil. If he dedicated himself to just riding grand stage races like this one, how good a professional bike rider he would be. Valverde is attacking here, I think, to put a little bit of pressure onto the shoulders of Team Sky to try and isolate them, to try and isolate Chris Froome, because by Valverde attacking, it's forcing Geraint Thomas and then Richie Porte to chase down after him. Then all of a sudden, towards the end of this race, it'll end up being Froome against Quintana.
Now there's the face of Valverde, and a little shy look there from Geraint Thomas. Say, hey man, don't do that again, we're back. And he's brought Froome back into the thick of it. And what about Adam Yates? That's a great piece of climbing by Yates.
Oh, it's a brilliant piece of climbing by the youngster there, Phil, who sits on the back here. He's probably looking up here and saying, wow, look at all these guys I am with. All he's got to realise, though, Phil, that he's in a super position to maybe attack a little bit later on.
Valverde's doing an incredible job of loosening up this breakaway, just in favour of Quintana. Terrific bike riding. I think he's come to this tour on great form.
He has, but I don't think he's doing this for himself. I think Valverde is doing this to put pressure onto Sky. He says, come on, boys, you want to win the race? He is attacking. He keeps forcing them to chase him down. 12 seconds is the gap now between the lone leader. Almost forgotten about Robert Hessink, who's looking very good. It's the best I've seen Robert Hessink in the Tour de France for the last couple of years.
And this would go down as one of his greatest victories if he stayed away to the finish as well. He's still got 12 seconds. Look at these three class climbers. Rodriguez in the centre, Nibali and Uran. Those boys are in trouble today. We've got no time check on them, but they are back at the leaders right now. And we weren't expecting this, but that pace has been so hard up front. And Geraint Thomas has got to be becoming one of the best bike riders in the world. He is so good in situations like this.
He's slimmed down. He's lost between 4 and 5 kilos, which is 10 to 12 pounds. Valls, well, he made the move in the pink jersey there, and he's slipping back. And sadly, too, so is Adam Yates.
Adam Yates also gone as we go up to 6.8 kilometres left to ride. This has become the creme de la creme. There's one or two surprises in there.
Oh, Contador,
what's he doing? He's lost the wheel there, and he's beginning to lose ground rapidly. Now Contador is losing ground.
So too has Valverde gone. Now it's down to Richie Porte. Looks over his shoulder. He's going to try to do the damage. Now locked on the wheel of Chris Froome is Nairo Quintana, and just hanging in there is TJ Van Garderen.
Yes, and Valverde now has done his bit. He's gone. Pierre Roland has gone. The French Hope has gone as well. 6.6 kilometres, and it's Richie Porte, the wingman, driving again for Froome.
Yeah, Phil, can I just remind you, 6.5 kilometres left to go. There's still 20 minutes of climbing before these guys get themselves up towards the finish line. Richie Porte now has got the form that helped Bradley Wiggins win the Tour de France, that helped Chris Froome win the Tour de France in the past. Now it's down to just 3 men. Froome, look at that amazing pedalling cadence. He can spin those pedal rounds so very, very quickly. Speeds are approaching 100 revolutions a minute, but sitting locked into his wheel there is the man in the white jersey from Boyacá in Colombia, Nairo Quintana. Looks now as if it's a little bit of a change reversal. There is Hessink, he's alongside. Oh, and this is Froome.
Well, Froome has accelerated, but the little man from Colombia has realised it. Can he chase him down? Chris Froome is really putting the hammer down here now to test everybody in the Tour. And it looks as though only Quintana, for the moment, is remotely going to control Froome. It's a long gap already. The Basque flags are on the corners. He shoots around. It steepens up there. Froome looks over his shoulder to see where he is. He's only going to see one man in a white jersey.
But don't forget what Chris Froome did the first time he came up against Nairo Quintana 2 years ago. He overestimated his own ability, and Quintana came back again.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a big move by Chris Froome, and the acceleration that using low gears. But he's being chased now, and if anything, he might be nailing him back a little bit.
Well, Quintana is a fabulous climber, the winner last year of the Giro d'Italia.
This is Van Garderen here. So Van Garderen is dropped now. There's 2 prominent dominating men in the Tour de France. This one's beaten.
Here's your chance to win £10,000, a cycling holiday for 2 and new kit. Courtesy of Rafa, the winner will get to enjoy a cycling trip for 2 to any of their European destinations up to the value of £6,400. We'll also give you a £1,000 travel allowance. Plus, to ensure you're kitted out for your cycling adventure, the winner will also get their choice of Team Sky jersey and shorts and a £400 gift voucher to spend at the Rafa online store. Don't forget, the lucky winner will also receive £10,000 tax-free cash. For your chance to win the trip, new kit and £10,000 cash, text the word TOUR to 68300. Text costs £1.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or send your name and phone number by post to TDF 0215 PO Box 7558 Derby DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over. Text entry closes at 3 p.m. on Monday the 20th of July.
These are the legs of the man who is really establishing himself now as a solid leader of the Tour de France, and we're over a week and a half away from the finish in Paris. But on these sort of conditions, who knows what he's going to win by.
And we talked, Phil, about Richie Porte coming back to the top. Race Radio is saying that Richie Porte is about to catch up with Nairo Quintana. Now, Richie Porte is the man that set up the acceleration of Chris Froome, put himself into difficulty, but that just goes to show that Quintana, in cycling jargon, is actually going backwards.
As we look at a group here a little further down the mountain.
And what about number 39, Geraint Thomas? He's just sitting with these guys saying, you guys are Tour de France contenders, and I'm quite comfortable to allow you to do the pace-making this afternoon.
Because he set the thing up for Chris Froome today, along with Richie Porte. Well, it's not the prettiest bicycle riding style in the world, but it's certainly the most effective on this mountain for Chris Froome. Quintana, he's losing ground.
Yeah, but Phil, we'd said over the early kilometres of today's stage, a lot of people are saying that more damage could be done on today's stage with a single climb than could be done on the next two stages in the Pyrenees, and that seems to be coming true right now, because you're looking at almost a minute lost by Nairo Quintana at the moment in the space of 6.5 kilometres of racing.
More room required. Don't run in front of him. Let him see where he's going, because Froome is gaining time, and that's what he's after today. Big time. This is the next group on the road, with Geraint Thomas in it and Pierre Rolland at the back, Valverde.
Well, Alejandro Valverde, he won't give TJ Van Garen any assistance at all for Pierre Rolland. Well, it's a question of he tried this afternoon.
2 kilometres to go for Chris Froome now. It gets a little bit easier, and then he'll kick again. You'll see what he's heading to very shortly. Every pedal rev is gaining time. Is he putting enough on the table to say he can win the Tour de France now? It's still a week and a half from Paris. This popular Colombian, they're trying to drive him on here.
Finally, a little bit of respite from the noise of Nairo Quintana, but no respite from the effort. He's still got to keep racing. He's still got to keep the pressure on to try and limit his losses as he comes over the final kilometre or so. Well, Richie Porte is still recovering, according to Race Radio. It's very difficult once you get into the mountains and the race is split up so dramatically to find out where everybody is.
Well, here is Richie Porte here as he fights for another high position for himself in the Tour de France now. He's got Quintana in his gun sights, and he's got time to make this a Sky 1-2 at the summit of the first big challenge of this year's Tour. There's the 1 kilometre kite, and Chris Froome goes under it with a comfortable lead.
And still, Phil, it's the same cadence, the high pedalling cadence that Chris Froome has developed over the last few years. People have wondered about it. It's a very strange pedalling style, maybe not the most beautiful style in the world when it comes to the aficionados who like to see a smooth pedalling action, but I tell you what, it's extremely efficient for Chris Froome.
And what about Porte here? He's being drawn to Quintana like a magnet. He's just going to try and nip him on the line. Meanwhile, Chris Froome still in all sorts of pain. Pain that he wants to feel, because he knows with every pedal rev, he adds another second to his overall lead in the Tour de France. He's looking for his 5th ever stage win, of course. He's won the Tour as well. And it looks to me as though Geraint Thomas is chasing anything from this next group.
Yes, that acceleration was Pierre Rolland. The fact of the matter is that this group had slowed down a fraction because Tony Galopin had recovered.
Well, our camera foreshortens the length, but I don't know how far we'd say that was, but he's very close, a kilometre to go, to catching up with Quintana. Froome, meanwhile, is ready to salute the crowd here. He's won on La Planche de Belfis in Trois-Domaines, Mont Ventoux. He won the time trial at Georges in the past. It's another mountaintop victory for this incredible bike rider. And now, who is to beat him in this year's Tour de France? It must be an incredible feeling at 500 metres. And the crowd barriered safely back to a place where we've never been before. And look at this too. Quintana was supposed to win today for his team. He might not finish second.
Well, I wonder whether or not Richie Porte, number 35 there, signed his contract, because I think he'll be increasing his value with a ride like this today.
Well, it could be an incredible demonstration by Team Sky here. As he comes around the corner, 300 metres to go. Chris Froome, the winner of the Tour de France in 2013. He celebrates a 4th day in the Maillot Jaune. He also wore it early on for a day. And now he dances all the way to the summit of the La Pierre Saint-Martin. And when we see the time gaps later on, we're going to ask ourselves, is there anybody now can beat him in this year's Tour de France? 100 metres to go. Froome has conquered, literally, the sky's the limit now for him as he comes up this climb of Saint-Martin, the Tour's first ever visit, and it's won by the leader of the Tour de France in yellow. And boy, it's going to be a big lead tonight. No longer will it be just 12 seconds. Now is Richie Porte going to jump Nairo Quintana?
Well, Richie
can he jump Nairo Quintana?
Well, the question is if he wants to jump him or not, but maybe for a psychological blow to Nairo Quintana, who everybody was expecting to be the winner at the top of this climb here today. Well, Nairo Quintana, now number 51, has been put on the back foot, and Richie Porte goes.
Here he goes. There's a 6-second bonus for second, a 4-second for third. They're not going to give him anything, the Sky team. They've even taken a 2-second bonus off him there, as Richie Porte will be delighted with this. Now, Richie has said he is leaving Team Sky at the end of the year. He won't say to whom, but it's to Team BMC, the USA squad, because he wants to win for himself. Well, today, he's finishing second to his team leader, Chris Froome.
Well, funnily enough there, Phil, as this man crosses the line in second position, he will be in second position at the end of the day in the King of the Mountains competition, so he will more than likely be the wearer of that tomorrow, because Froome has certainly got yellow.
As Robert Gessing has survived a great day for him, it really has. He took the race to them. He didn't quite work out, but he's hung on well here. He'll see this as a brilliant day in the Tour de France. Gessing, that's the 4th man over the line. Now here comes the group of Valverde, who tried to soften up the Sky Boys, didn't quite work out. In the distance is TJ Van Garderen. It looks as though Yates is going to have a dig here.
Yeah, but look at Valverde there, and Geraint Thomas just sitting on the wheel of Alejandro Valverde. Valverde's the man who tried to set all of this up in the early part of the day. It kind of backfired on him a fraction.
5th place, and I don't think Geraint Thomas even tried to beat Valverde there, just tapped him on the back, said well done.
This is Tony Galopin coming up to the line. I'm impressed by this young man as well, a wearer of the yellow jersey. And there is TJ Van Garderen, a little bit further back with the yellow helmet, who started the day in second place overall.
TJ Van Garderen is home. He's been in a real battle today, but he'll live to fight another day. And Contador, he's lost time. He did not expect to lose. Big question mark now on Alberto Contador.
Yeah, those legs look like they're buckling a fraction. He's really trying everything just to limit his losses, but when he looks at the clock at the end of today, he's going to see 2 minutes and 50 seconds lost. That is a huge chunk of time for Alberto Contador.
And his was only 2/3 the size of the chunk Vincenzo Nibali lost. He came in 4 minutes 25 behind the winner, plus the 10-second time bonus for added misery. By then, Chris Froome would have had time to watch himself winning in super slow-mo half a dozen times. He's too diligent for that, of course. Even hugs from the boss had to be done during his warm-down, before he finally sat down and waited for the new green jersey wearer, Andre Greipel, to come in with the autobus so that the presentations could begin. Here's the result then. Froome by 59 seconds from his teammate Richie Porte, who jumped Nairo Quintana for the second-place bonus at the line. Robert Hesing was 4th. Alejandro Valverde and Geraint Thomas came in together 5th and 6th, with Adam Yates an impressive 7th, paired with Pierre Rolland. Tony Galopin was 9th and TJ Van Garderen 10th, 2 minutes 30 down on Chris Froome.
Well, I knew Froome would be good, but I think we all really stepped up, and surprising, really. I think the plan all along was to sit. We knew Movistar would go at the bottom. It was just sit behind them and see how many riders we had left once they finished, and we had 4 of us. We all felt good. Froome was on the radio saying he felt really good. Let's smash it. So, you know, when Froome's saying that, morale's good, and we went for it. And like I say, it was for me, it was a dream. I felt really good today. Come out of that rest day really well, and yeah. So personally, great. As a team, even better.
Or even worse, depending on which team you're riding for. Alberto Contador was 11th at 2 minutes 51. Warren Barguil lost 3 minutes 19. Vincenzo Nibali added 4 minutes 25 plus 10 to the 2 minutes 22 by which he trailed this morning.
Attualmente non riesco a dare di più, mi sento di dire che non sono nemmeno il fratello del Nibali dello scorso anno. È inutile stare ora lì a pensare cos'è, cosa non è, cosa è sbagliato, quindi nient'altro. Sto soltanto che è stata un po' una giornata così e bisogna prenderla, bisogna analizzare quando ci vuole del tempo e comunque ancora il tour è molto lungo, molto difficile e nient'altro.
Right, let's look at the radically reshaped GC. Helpfully, the big 4+1 are all on the same page, but you wouldn't think it from the time gaps. From 12 seconds this morning, TJ Van Garderen is at 2 minutes 52. Nairo Quintana is up to third, but now 3 minutes 9 seconds down. Alejandro Valverde is fourth at 4:01, just a couple of seconds ahead of Geraint Thomas, with Alberto Contador another second behind him. Tony Gallopin is at 4.5 minutes. Robert Hesink has ridden himself into the top 10 ahead of Warren Barguil, who was riding hurt but stayed with the favourites for as long as he could. Longer certainly than Vincenzo Nibali, who was the first to go. The man who won the Tour by 7.5 minutes last year is 3 seconds shy of 7 minutes in arrears. So Chris Froome climbed the podium as a stage winner for the first time since the last mountain he rode in the Tour, Mont Ventoux, which funnily enough was doing the rounds on the internet last night because someone had managed to get hold of his power data for it, match it to the video of the climb and raise the usual questions about whether it was achievable by natural means. More on that in a moment. Froome took the lead in the King of the Mountains competition too. There were 50 points on offer on the final climb compared to the 4 that Daniel Tekla-Hymanot was leading the competition with. And of course he kept the jersey he rode the stage in, increasing the brightness and intensity of the yellow. As well as being third overall, Nairo Quintana took the lead in the Best Young Rider competition as expected, but he was aiming higher than that when he put his team on the front today.
Sí, queríamos llevar la carrera rápida para ver quién estaba más fuerte, quién estaba menos fuerte, en qué condición estábamos. Hemos visto que Froome indudablemente está superior a todos y bueno, hemos perdido más tiempo y no esperábamos la verdad, pero su fortaleza es de aceptarlo y más adelante pues pensaremos en alguna otra estrategia. Queda bastante montaña, es el primer día de montaña y queda mucho. Cada día va sumando y las fuerzas se van acabando y esperamos a ver si un día falla o bueno, o nos podemos mantener por lo menos en el lugar en el que estamos.
Well, I wouldn't for a minute expect Chris Froome to agree with me, what I'm about to tell him, but everybody at home will be thinking you've won the Tour de France. If you were in your rival's shoes, though, you would be feeling utterly powerless after a display like that. Would you concede that at least?
I mean, yeah, just a fantastic day, absolutely fantastic. I mean, for me to be able to win the stage like that in yellow, and then for Richie to come in second, take those precious time bonus seconds away from Quintana. G just a few places back in fifth. I mean, those are the caliber of the guys I've got supporting me. So, I mean, I'm incredibly lucky to have those guys around me. I think we really looked after ourselves through the rest day yesterday and it's paid off today.
Listen, you're familiar with this from 2013. You know the routine. You know about wearing the yellow jersey and defending it for a long period of time. With great success comes great scrutiny. That's been abundantly clear over the last 24 hours. You're going to have to live with this now under a microscope.
No, certainly. I mean, that's the Tour de France. We're ready for this. We've done all the training. We're ready for it.
And the answers, the difficult questions?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're extremely proud to be in this position. We're a clean team. I'm winning the Tour clean, and I'm extremely proud of that.